So I'll be honest, I was ready to trash this little deck. It's a dumpy little deck. Like if you go through it, it's only 9 slides and there's not a lot to it. The design is not that great. The color scheme is a little bit off and it's just sort of dated. It's from 2011 and it shows its age. So I was prepared to hate on it, but you know what? I just can't. I think that the deck, it works. It does its job and it does it incredibly effectively. And it doesn't do it with fancy design or bold storytelling. It just zeroes in on a particular problem and then it makes the case irrefutably that they're on the path to fixing it. So TransferWise, they rebranded. They're now called Wise and they allow people to transfer currencies. And I actually use TransferWise because I live in Canada, but I'm from the States. And so I'm often transferring between USD and Canadian dollars. And the problem they solve is actually a fairly big one, which is how do you transfer currencies without getting shafted by the banks? And so in their very first slide, they basically call that out. Now, typically what I would do when I look at a slide like this is I would recommend that you break it apart, that you walk through it in sequence. But I think what they've done here is they've masterfully zeroed in on the particular problem that they're trying to solve. And then they've shown visually how they're going to solve it. And so if you look at this first part, they're basically saying that banks, when you transfer between currencies, you end up spending a bunch of money on fees and a bunch of money on this sort of bogus exchange rate that banks create in order to make a few bucks. The way they're going to fix that is they're going to allow peers to transfer with each other and they're going to take a flat fee between those peers. So like right in the first minute, you've established that there's this huge problem involving billions and billions of dollars. And you haven't had to do the math. You haven't had to show the market. Everyone knows that banks charge these fees and everyone would rather not be charged those fees. And everyone is a lot of people and everyone has a lot of money. And so if what they describe in the second part of the slide is actually doable, if you actually can set up some sort of exchange between two people involving two currencies and allow them to exchange those currencies without the fat fees, well, man, that would be big news. That could save people billions of dollars. That could create a massive company. Now, at this point, you don't really know if it's possible, but we're about to get to the next slide, and that is how it works. Now, this doesn't fully answer the question. It doesn't say that people actually are using TransferWise. It just says, if they were to use TransferWise, here's how it would work. They may could have made this more concisely. They may could have made this more visually, but it still works. You're showing what a customer would see and you're describing what a customer would do. And it's not really that complicated. And then with this slide, they hit a home run. Keep in mind, this is only 3 slides in. They've had their opening slide and they've had 2 slides before that. So let me just kind of go back. Your opening slide, you describe the problem, describe what you're going to do to fix it, describe how it works. And now you're on to traction. You're only 3 slides in. And the case that you've made is that this is a huge problem. You can fix it. Here's how you can fix it. And by the way, people are actually using your product to the tune of €1 million. And not only that, but their usage is growing. So you're attracting customers. Those customers are continuing to use your product. And the amount that they're putting through your platform keeps growing month after month after month. So it doesn't take a mathematician to look at this chart in the lower right and think, well, yeah, that seems conceivable. If you take the numbers that are in the lower left and you just sort of extrapolate them out, then you're going to get a big company one day. This slide too is a stroke of brilliance. It's probably the most effective stuff we're not doing slide I've ever seen. They're saying we do personal and business payments. We only do those in 2 currencies. We've only done a little bit of word of mouth marketing and we've already got $1 million through the platform. And you've got all this other stuff and all these other things that you can do. Everything we've done has been done with 1 currency pair and no marketing. And in a lot of ways, this answers the key question of the deck, which is why do you need money? How are you going to use money? How is my investment in TransferWise going to allow TransferWise to grow? And this slide answers that masterfully. I think this slide is probably their least effective slide in the whole deck because it doesn't really say how they're different from these competitors, particularly those that look like they might be competitors on the peer-to-peer side. So it's pretty clear that they're differentiated from the banks, but they haven't really described how it is that they're differentiated from the FX brokers or from some of those new services. We could maybe improve it, but I'm not going to try to draw a mustache on the Mona Lisa. This slide is not brilliant, but it's not bad. It basically says they know the financial services industry and they've had some past experience. And that's really all you need at this stage. That's all you need for this early stage seed round. This slide isn't fantastic either, but it still works. It's just housekeeping at this point. They've already made the point. They've already made the sale. And this is just wrap up. And I bet the main question they got at this point was, where do I send the money? And so what grade would I give them? A+, no question. I mean, there's things you could do to improve the deck. There's always things that you can do to improve. And the design in particular was not great, but they did a brilliant job in combining that problem solution pairing and in describing how they're actually solving that problem for actual customers.